Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everyone. The beginning of our home yoga practice week. Hopefully it doesn't mean that you haven't been practicing. Good to see you all. I'm Belinda with Just Be Yoga, and we're here with our home yoga practice live. This week, I think I'd like to work on a fun little topic or theme that we hear a lot in the yoga world, and that is flexibility. How many times have you heard, either I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible, or I need to do yoga to get flexible. And that just ends up opening this huge can of worms about our perception about flexibility. What is flexibility? How do we get it? Do we have the patience and the commitment to actually do the work that starts to break down the elements of flexibility? All right. So if you're new to Home Yoga Practice Live, this is a video experience, a virtual class experience where we're learning some tips and tools on how to develop our personal practice of yoga, our personal yoga practice. So Tuesday is our most philosophical day. Wednesday is our power day. Thursday, finding a new element, something new to chew on, a new level of something. Friday, fundamentals. If you want to check out any of our past themes and what we mean by developing a practice plan, please go to the Just Be Yoga blog at justbeyoga.com and look up home yoga practices, and you'll see several weeks of us kind of working and developing through. All right, so what do I mean by flexibility? Feel free to make yourselves comfortable. We'll probably chat for a little bit, maybe about, I'm going to try to push it to no more than 10 minutes, and then we'll start to move and maybe start to think about where do we want to bring our focus this week in our personal practice about flexibility. So feel free to say hello and let me know you're here first. I'm coming up to the computer so that I can type a couple of things, because I realized that I haven't put in any notes for us to talk about. All right. So what do I mean by flexibility? We can be talking about flexibility on a physical level, right? We've got regions and zones of our body. We're going to get back to the physiology in a minute, because we can stay there and have a happy little time there picking that apart. But we can be talking about flexibility on a physical level. We can be talking about flexibility on a mental level, which is often where the flexibility in the physical level runs into some hindrance because of our mental space as well. And then, of course, the flexibility on our spiritual level. Okay, so let's go to the physiological level before we get into any of the other stuff, because it seems like that's the region that a lot of us come into our practice with, right? We say, I want to get flexible. Hi, Melissa. Our Yoga to Excel classes are the only ones that I do in Zoom, and they are accessible if you join our Yoga to Excel Curvy Yoga group. If you give me a moment, I can actually put an invite right on the page and invite you into that group, and you can see some of those classes. Tonight is our yin yoga at 7 o'clock, only accessible through the Zoom in that group. Okay, so I'm going to put that group right now on the page. Other folks, feel free to say hello while I multitask and do that. All right, so our physical level, join this group to join our curvy. There we go. On the Facebook page, I just posted the group, and you can join that group for an invite. Okay. All righty. Okay. So physiologically, we've got flesh, we've got bone. Of course, bone doesn't really move, right? So it's about the flesh around the bone that needs to be able to find movement. When we're thinking about moving in our bodies and what is flexible or isn't flexible, maybe start to ask yourself, what is it in my body I want to move? Think region. Because if I say I'm not flexible, I know that we're not all walking around inside of concrete. So what do we mean by that? What is not moving, and what do we want to move, or what are we moving most often? So think region and frequency. So right now, think about your day to day to day. What areas of the body do you move most often and least often? And how frequently are you moving those regions or not at all? And that will start to give us a sense of the balance, right? We've talked about balance before in some of our other practices. Thinking about, okay, is it that it isn't moving or that we never move it? Then if we're not moving it at all, then we can start to talk about our frequency and the range. But then we have to bring in a healthy dose of patience as well as commitment. Okay, now I've added in here about elasticity versus plasticity, because once we do start to get into certain regions of the body and we're trying to move them, we have to be able to acknowledge a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about some kinesiology or some engineering of movement. Let's take silly putty. Okay, so let's call the flesh in our body this silly putty. And as it pulls apart, we call that elasticity. Its ability to stretch apart and come back into its shape, okay? So right here, when I extend this arm, that bicep has elasticity to stretch from this attachment to that attachment in the elbow. And when I come in here, it is able to come back into its shape. Plasticity is it pulls and it stays that way. So I think the best example of that is our skin, right? As young baby, it has elasticity, but it also has a plasticity. I feel it because I'm getting older, right? So the older the skin is and the more that it has elasticized for a certain amount of flesh or shape or fat, great, it accommodates it, but it holds that and it doesn't come back in after a certain point, okay? Alrighty, so when we're moving, we're looking for, can a space hold its shape? Can it stretch into a shape? And some of it can and some of it can't, okay? And can we accept those limitations? So I feel like flexibility gives us so much to chew on because we get to confront the things that are rigid and stuck, and then how is that housing our mental energy? And we also get to look at how enamored we are with a certain amount of fluidity. Okay, now mental space. This is the hardest thing. So the flexibility in our mind. Can we be okay with things that change? Do we need things to be a certain way? Already, are you like, if you're new to home yoga practice, are you like, oh my God, when are we going to start the yoga? But we're actually in a space of yoga, svadhyaya, self-study or study of principle is a part of the branches of the tree of yoga. We're connecting our awareness to something new. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the subtle energy of chakras. So we have 7 subtle energy centers in our body. The root chakra is, say, your feet or your tailbone, anything that helps us feel rooted, stable, foundational. That governs our sense of stability and safety. The second chakra in our waist, in our sacrum, not our waist, sorry, more toward the hips and our sacrum, is considered to be connected to water. And it is our go with the flow, space of energy. Now, it makes a lot of sense. Our hips are here. This is our biggest joint, our biggest range of movement. Our hips also govern and help pump our circulatory system. Talk about going with the flow and keeping things going with the flow and fluid. So whenever we're starting to think about how flexible am I or how rigid am I, and if I'm getting aggressive or angry about a lack of flexibility on the part of others or myself, we could probably stand to take a look at where we are energetically, with how rigid we are or how willing we are to see things from a different perspective, to allow that things do change, because flexibility is nothing but a state of change and fluidity. So when we do get into this region throughout this week, I'm hoping to recall to try to bring up some elements about the second chakra, Svadhisthana. The color is orange. The element is water. So even visualizations about water or meditations about water or immersing your body in water can start to connect you to that elemental sensation and all of the qualities that come with it that bring a go with the flow mindset, and then the body will follow. Remember, everything is connected. The body, the mind, the breath, the spirit, and they influence one another. If I've got a rigid mind, I'm going to be encouraging rigidity in my body. If I'm rigid in my body, it might contribute to rigidity in my thoughts, my behaviors, and even in my words. Okay, the last little bit, and please say any questions that you have about flexibility. The last little bit that's going to go into sutras, and then I'm going to return back to physiology, and then maybe we'll find some movement. The book of the sutras, the sutras of Patanjali that he wrote, and that really wasn't that he authored them. He wrote down a lot of oral history that had been continuing to be passed down and decided, we should probably write this down. So, he is not the author. I guess he is the ghostwriter. I don't know. There are 4 books of the sutras. The last 2 books are about, the third book is about the capacity of our mind. So think about it as a bowl that has a finite amount of volume and capacity. That's our mind. Do we even know in the journey of yoga what is our capacity? And I bring this up because that starts to really speak to our comprehension, our consciousness of limitation, and how we encounter the unknown or things that we didn't know before. Oh, great question, Melissa. I'm assuming that you're meaning about physiologically, about our physical stature. Melissa asks, does flexibility change as you age? So let's put a bookmark on that and talk a little bit about this sutra, and then we're going to return back to physical. So really good question. So the third book and the fourth book. The third book talks about the capacity of our mind, and it starts to explore the things that get in our way to us being able to understand that knowledge is fluid and that truth isn't static and that things do change. Even our perception of seasons, because seasons now are changing because of whether or not you believe in climate change or not, no matter what, seasons don't start and stop. It just, based on a calendar, it happens when it's going to happen, right? Heat and our perception of heat changes. So truth can also change. If we're not bending, if we believe in absolutes, we're probably going to have a really rigid and non-flexible mind. The fourth book of sutras starts to talk about what is possible when we are within the most fluid space of the capacity of our mind. And so it's endless possibility. So if you're looking at yogis who are able to slow their heartbeat, who are able to talk about levels of levitation, if you want to believe it or not, the wondrous and the miracles that are recited in ancient texts about yoga, that is only achieved by the deepest levels of meditation focus, as well as the physiological aspects of yoga, all coming together for us to look at new possibilities. And we don't reach those new possibilities without ultimately a flexibility of mind and a flexibility of practice. So it means practicing things in different ways and allowing ourselves to try new things. Okay, let's stay on the come back to the physiological end of things. So I talked a little bit about region and frequency when we're talking about what do we move the most and what do we move most often. Yes, I wrote notes to get ready for today. So our region and our frequency. Frequency also refers to duration. So duration of time that you hold a pose, duration of time that you're sitting in your butt at a computer at work, right? All of that contributes either to a rigidity or a flexibility or fluidity. I prefer to use the term fluidity. I prefer to use almost anything other than flexibility. All right. So what are some elements that are physiologically that start to impact our fluidity or flexibility? Besides the fact of our shape, do I just sit in a chair like this? So that's basically sitting in a static or rigid space for a duration of time. Or are there other contributing factors to the fluidity in the body? So getting to Melissa's point, Melissa asked, does flexibility change as you age? I'm going to say yes and no, because I don't say that there's any constant for any one, for a whole group of people. Everybody's an individual. But there are hormonal contributions to our elasticity that do change with time, particularly if you are born with a uterus. So if you are born with a uterus and are physiologically of the female sex, you will experience a decrease in estrogen and progesterone as you go through perimenopause and into menopause. And those are hormones that greatly contribute to a pliability, a flexibility, a fluidity of body, because it prepares this body to be able to accommodate the growth of another being, as well as to help evacuate another being. So it got to be able to have some joints, be able to move out of the way to accommodate moving a body. Hey, Elizabeth, good morning. All right, we're talking about what makes us flexible? Why do we come to yoga for flexibility? What is flexibility? Talked a little bit about elasticity and plasticity. And I was answering a question from Melissa in regards to hormones greatly do contribute to our elasticity. I am menopausal. So yay, I'm done with the perimenopause, which is absolute hell, with all of the fluctuations that start to go on. It's like your car learning how to go on a different kind of fuel. And I've had to deal with changes in the range of movement or how quickly certain regions, and I'm aiming at my low back because for me, that's what ends up talking the most. It doesn't mean that I don't continue to find a range, but I have to be more patient because that elasticity that I was talking about and that plasticity, it wants to kind of hold and doesn't want to stay flexible, that it needs a little bit more warming up. All right. Now I'm going to talk about another aspect. We have underneath of the dermis, underneath of our skin and before the muscle is called fascia. There's a silver lining. A silver lining around our muscles. It has its own connection to a different aspect of our nervous system that can actually create tension around the fibers of your muscles that can contribute to more plasticity than elasticity of your muscles. And your nervous system is going to contribute to that. And of course, your connection to your adrenal glands, whether you're hyper stressed out or under stressed, will contribute toward the tension around the fascia. So fascia, hormones, Now, I'm going to bring up one other aspect of some flexibility, and this may be to anyone who has some neurological condition or even the autoimmune condition of multiple sclerosis, both of which, so certain neurological conditions and MS, can contribute to an aspect in your muscles called spasticity. And that would mean that a muscle stays in a spasm, in an active contraction, but stuck. Okay. And that's very painful. But if that's rigid, basically your muscle is taking on all of the characteristics of a bone. Not going to move it. Okay. You have to really be kind and gentle in those areas, and probably be in some physical therapy with that. We got to learn a lot of relaxation techniques to try to get that nervous system connection into the fascia, into the muscles to find some relaxation. Okay. 59, you're feeling it? All right, Elizabeth. Okay. Spasticity, hormonal contributions, our fascia reaction, as well as what have you been doing in your body recently or over a lifetime. And if you have only taken your body out of bed, to the bathroom, back to a chair, into a car, back to bed, you have limited the range of movement in your body and probably need to take a far more gentle approach to lengthening out different muscle sets. All right. So region, I said region, frequency, and duration. So you can just start from the top of the head on down and just ask yourself, how often and what is the range of movement I bring to this area of my body? Now, I did skip from here to here, but we don't have to, right? What's the range in this jaw? Every joint that can move, we should probably ask ourselves, do I move it side to side or only up and down? What is the range I could give myself? What energetic release can I give myself by bringing attention to this area? Also, muscular, not just joint. The tongue. For some of you who know Simhasana is called lion's breath. With that breath, we find the range of movement to extrude the tongue from the base all the way down. Okay, so we want to find where that attachment is down here and ask it. And feel the muscles that are involved to try to find that range of movement. How does that lubricate our voice, our throat, our neck, increasing even our capacity for breath, or even just our awareness? And we just finished talking about the mental state. Building a flexibility of awareness starts to help bring balance into our lives. All right, so the neck, right? You do neck rotations, but do we hold all day like this? Are we like this? Are we like this on a device? So think about this, find your counter move. We'll do a little bit of yin toward the end of today with a supported fish, and feel some of that neck space and observe the tension that we're observing or any release or lengthening that we're observing. So we've got our neck, front of the chest, back of the chest, your whole torso from the hips up to the shoulder joint. We've got the rib cage. And so we want to think about the front, the muscles that are in the front of the torso, the muscles that are in the back along the spinal column, the muscles along the side that hold everything together, the serratus, our obliques. And I talked about the pectoralis and the abdominal muscles. Then there are muscles inside, in between each rib, as well as what's helping contain our organs, and the muscles on the pelvic floor. So if you're just looking at the torso, as well as the twisting that happens in this torso, how often do we access that range? Again, are we sitting and just like this pretty much throughout the day? And then we wonder why we can't hold the chest up, because the muscles that are here just get to collapse and they don't actively ask our chest to sit upright. We'll also get to explore the role that strength in certain muscles help contribute toward the elasticity or the lengthening of other muscles. So they work hand in hand. right? Yes, there are some practices like yin yoga that give us just to kind of lay and let the stretch occur. But most of us don't get to lay as a blob all day long, right? So we probably need to learn how to work on a strength in one area in order to find that equal and opposite action of lengthening in another. Next region, our hips, again, complex. So we can feel the outside of those hips, the sides. We've got 3 butts, glute maximus, minimus, medius, the muscles around your sacrum, again, the muscles in the pelvis, and then the groin. And then we've got our legs. Our legs, we've got the upper region of the legs around the femur, so all of the muscles around the top, as well as the muscles around the lower part of the leg, that go around your tibia and fibula. And then, of course, the knee, which is complex, with the patella and the tendon that's in that. And then we've got our Achilles and the ankle and all of those fine bones that are in there. Can they find the space around those bones, or are they just enduring all of that compression? As well as then the feet and the hands. Oh, we didn't even talk about the hands. My bad. Okay, so we've got so many regions of the body. We probably feel the biggest regions because they're big. They speak the loudest, the most. The smaller regions also hold tons of tension and could really stand for some of our attention. Okay, so flexibility. Anybody have any questions that I have not addressed? These are broad strokes, but we're going to start to move and keep those in mind as we start to feel out what is the theme I want to focus on this week in my practice. Is it the flexibility of mind? Is it a partnership of flexibility in my mind with my body? Is there a certain region, only one region, that I want to really focus on? Or do I want to feel out how I can find a fluidity that's a little bit more balanced throughout the body? So I'm just giving us a little bit of talking points before we start to bring some movement in for today. Do feel free. I'll wait a few more minutes to see if any of us have any specific questions that I have not addressed. These are brush strokes. Again, if you want to grab a copy of the sutras, I do recommend the sutras that are at the back of Heart of Yoga by TKV Desikachar. But you can get any version of the Yoga Sutras that you like. And those last 3 books, there's 4 chapters. So the last 2 chapters, 3 and 4, contribute to our understanding of the capacity of our mind and then the possibilities once we start to expand our capacity. Alrighty, so we're going to get started in a seated space. And why don't we start sitting with our legs out in front of us? And let's bring no action into the body, as little as you can. You got to have some action for your torso to stay upright. So there's some amount of work and action that is going on. Do feel free if at any point in time that you want to type in anything up here, I'll take a peek and see if I can address it. So you don't have to hold your questions till the end. And if you want to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. And we'll use this moment to let the dust settle. Beginning with our check-in for our practice. It's not that the practice is only just now beginning, as I said. Even hearing some instruction is study. Any element of study is also one of the branches of the tree of yoga. So we are practicing. But let the stimuli start to subside. Don't try to cling to any thought or any idea that I've brought up here today. Let it go. You can always hit replay on this video. Practicing and detaching, those are the 2 muscles that we work in yoga. Practice and detach. And as we sit and breathe and detach our mind, feel the bones in your body. Any bone that you can be aware of. Don't try very hard. Relax your belly and feel your flesh moving to accommodate your breath. Now feel the flesh around your bones. Notice the flesh that has some ease and some flesh where you are aware of tension. Now, tension has a range. Think of it as a rope that's being pulled on both ends. What ends of the rope of any tension points in your body can you be aware of? Where are you feeling the non-moving? Breathe. Don't try to change anything. We're just scanning. Now, what is your mental or emotional relationship to that tension? Are you angry about it? Are you meeting the tension with tension? Are you sad? Are you shamed? Do you feel guilt? Are you in a space of remorse? Do you miss an old body that you're recalling as being more fluid, where that rigidity wasn't there? And let's take a moment and practice the first part of the first limb of yoga, the yamas, and practice ahimsa, non-harming or loving kindness. Breathe some gentleness around any tension point that you're feeling. Holding space for your mental rigidity, and send some love there. And hold space for the physical rigidity, and send some love there. And let's point and flex in the ankles and the heels. And notice the tension point in the muscles of your shins and the muscles of your calves. When we're flexing, you'll probably feel the calves more. When you're pointing, you're probably going to feel the shins more. Breathe and flex. Slow down enough to notice. It takes a lot of pressure for me to point down, and then I'll start to feel stretching at the tops of my ankles and the tops of my feet. It takes a ton for me to start to feel it in my shins. That's my body. Breathe. If I add the toes curling down, I feel a lot more stretch in the tops of certain sections of the feet. How much are you feeling it in the skin versus the muscles versus the fascia? Breathe. Now find your tension point, but don't force. We don't want to rip the silly putty. Find the stopping point, send some love there. Now maybe start to spend more time in the pressing of the heels. Pause, feel. Notice what's going on in the back of your Achilles tendon, that attachment at the bottom of the back of the heel that comes up into the attachments in the back of your calves. And then point and flex, maybe hold again. Feeling. Let's stay here, squeeze your butt, and relax. Can you stay flexing? Squeeze the butt and relax. So we're feeling a contraction and relax. Squeeze and relax. Good. Now let's rotate this upper bone of the femur, the thigh bone, open. So we're going to stretch some of the muscles inside of the pelvic floor in your sacrum. Can you sit up tall? And you might just feel it as non-moving. You might not feel it as stretch at all. I feel a little bit of stretch in my low back and in my sacrum. I also am feeling the contraction. Remember what I said about the strengthening? Contraction of my low ab by sitting up. Now I could collapse in my belly and then to ask my belly not to work, and I'm still stretching without equally asking the abdominal wall to hold the torso up. Breathe. Sometimes you could add a little assistance, rotating this way. Now I'm flexing in those heels, keeping those muscles at their tension point. And I'm rotating, squeezing my butt, helping me sit up a little tall, breath free and easy. Now don't force. Now this is where the mind and the body really need to spend a little bit of time and feel out that difference. Are you forcing? Are you striving for a feeling? Do you have a craving for a feeling and you're forcing the body to try to fit your expectation? What could you relax in your mind or your body and just let feelings start to happen on their own? Relax your shoulders down, lift your chest. Good. I'm going to relax my groin, relax my butt. Now I feel a little release from the tension point that I was putting on there. I'm going to rotate now, staying active in the feet, rotating this upper bone inward. Now you may wish to move some of the fleshy bits of your buttocks out of the way. Got to move flesh from away from the bones so that the bones can have a firm sitting point on the earth. And rotating in, you could use the ankles to help you think about it, but really want to ask this bone to be the guide. And sit up. Keep applying that. Let's do it hands-free first. Let the abdominal wall start to work, but don't suck in the tummy. And feel the muscles or the stopping points that you're feeling along the upper part of the sides of your thighs, your IT band, a little bit of your gluteus medius. It's this side butt that rings around the upper part of your hips. You might feel your sacrum or your low back. Again, you might just feel it as a tightness or a stopping point. You may not feel it as a stretch that you're used to feeling as you expand the arms open wide. Now, if you like, rotate here. Just gently, firmly pressing and rolling that flesh in, helping it. Now sit up. Breath in. Breath out. Breath in. Breath out. Good. We'll release. Now, I'm going to flex the toes, sit up tall. I'm going to keep my spine upright. I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see. Flexing. You can keep those legs apart, pushing the backs of the legs down. So that strength contributes to our lengthening. So I'm rooting and squeezing in the thighs, contracting, lifting, stretching the muscles in the back and the belly. Lift from the rib cage up and hinge. Now stop when the body says stop. We're going to keep the spine nice and flat, flexing the toes. Notice the stopping points that you're feeling. For me, it's in the back of my calves. Some of you might be feeling it in your back. You might be feeling a combo. Keep flexing the toes. You might be feeling it in the back of your heels. All of these are stopping points of tension, preventing a bit of elasticity along the way. Now, there is elasticity, however. Don't just focus on the spots that are stopping. Let's roll the spine up. Breath in. Exhale, hinge. Stop. Keep the spine nice and flat. Don't cave or round. We're pulling and stretching. Breath in. Breath out. My neighbor has decided to do his lawn. Good. And let's roll it up. All right. So I love doing that without using a strap, without any external force. We're feeling where the body naturally wants to stop. Let's breathe in and lift Exhale, come forward. Now, any change, any state of change that we're wishing takes commitment and patience. So let's breathe and observe, what are we noticing in our commitment? Do we have patience to wait for the slow change? And even more difficult, do we have the patience and the commitment to observe what's in the way here? What is super tight, mentally and physically? Can I wait? Can I accept whatever amount of give will be given today? Can I send appreciation for any amount of fluidity that's allowing this movement at all? And roll the spine up. All right, so we were involving some of the low spine of the erector spinae, the hamstrings, backs of the calves, backs of the Achilles tendon. Okay, we're going to open a hip now. We'll bring the left foot up against that right inner thigh. We're going to fold again, so we want to bring a little bit of activation to stabilize in this leg and lift the chest, okay? Because in order for me to pull, let's say I had a rubber band in this hand and this was anchored to the wall, this is stable so that this can pull, right? If this wasn't stable and went with it, nothing would stretch, right? They would just go with one another. So I'm going to root here, squeezing, anchoring, pushing down, and lift to stretch. Good. Now this is opening. Notice where you're feeling what doesn't want to move. Now for me, things want to move. If that side of the thigh is touching the floor, you probably hit your range. Now that may depend on the size of our thigh, okay? So if I had a lot more flesh around this thigh, maybe that bone might not be able to go further because I have more flesh. You could sit on a raised surface that could allow this thigh to find a little bit more range of a stopping point of flesh. So feel free. You could get a block. You could sit here and you'll notice, oh, I've gotten a little bit more range, okay? So range, region of the body, remember frequency and duration. So here I've changed this range. I'm definitely feeling that more in the ligaments and the muscles in the groin. Flex and come forward. Now I'm working a little bit of the back muscles, a little bit of the hamstring and the calf. You could flex this right foot or point. Maybe feel out those differences. Breath. Now remember, ultimately in our yoga, we want to find some ease. So make peace. Don't go for more intensity. The stopping point in your stretch is not a flaw to be fixed. We are accepting the truth of this moment in our physical body, in our breath, and observing the state of our mind. Now maybe bend the right knee a little and take the fight out of this. Sometimes things move a little bit more if we back off of the intensity. We're going to change. I'm going to stay on this raised block. My hips are liking this added bit of space. You could be sitting on a pillow or a stack of pillows or blankets, okay? So find whatever props that you have. I'm never going to say you need to buy certain things. There's more than enough stuff that you have at home for you to be able to work anything out. We'll press this open. You could be sitting on books. Flex the right thigh. Now this hip is feeling a little tighter, all right? I'm right-handed or right-sided. My left side doesn't get as much of that aggressive work. Also, I don't know. So I also take a lot of analysis out of stuff. I don't sit and go, well, I did this yesterday, so blah. I'm really working on accepting what I feel right now instead of being in the analytical mind. If I come into my analytical mind, I'm not in a calm mind. My intellectual mind is happy to go running off, enamored with its own intellectualism. And my yoga space is for me to find peace. So I'm going to flex, lift, and come forward. Breath. You could always put a pillow here to rest. What is the fullest, calmest breath? Where are we noticing a resistance point? And how are we meeting and encountering that resistance? With more resistance? With anger? With joy? Are we enjoying some of these sensations? Practice and detach. With every exhale, could you soften and have no expectation? Get to know the contours of anything that's resisting and send appreciation for anything that is feeling fluid. And let's bring ourselves back up. Now, remember what I said about duration, okay? So as you're setting your practice plan, maybe you'll want to set 5 breaths for each side or each leg or whatever. And maybe you start to elongate that. You could do 10 breaths like 3 days later, or 7 breaths or whatever, or greet where you are today. Right? I probably could have done a little longer on this one side and a little shorter on this side. And tomorrow I'll add 2 breaths on each leg or whatever. But you're bringing that commitment aspect to the discipline of your practice, and then you're observing. And then be flexible enough to change it up if a body part says, I can't do that extra breath today. Okay? All right. Let's come to hands and knees. And we'll just shift weight left and right. Feel your neck and let your head go. Notice what you're feeling in your neck. Where's any tension? I'm feeling it at the back of my skull. A little bit in the top of my shoulders, but mostly in the top part of my neck. Now I'm just going to work my low back here. We're just going to feel range of movement, tilting the tailbone up. I'm going to try not to involve my upper chest. Now rock the tailbone down. Tilt the tailbone up. Can you feel what's stretching in the low belly? And then rock the tailbone down. Back and forth, just your low back. Try not to force anything. Find your breath. Now see if you can feel a different tension point. Tilt the tailbone up and then just keep tilting the tailbone. What is stopping? Is it the bone or is it the flesh? Are you starting to feel any sort of achy point, any sort of tension? And then rock the tailbone under. Just the tailbone. Breath in your sacrum. And then we'll hold. Now let's see, it's going to be far more difficult to just work the chest. So drop the top of the chest, pull the chin and the throat up. Try not to move your low back. Could you elongate your throat up like you are a turtle? Could you elongate your neck up? Now tuck the chin down, thrust the upper back up toward the ceiling. And again, trying to move the upper back, feel the fine muscles around your upper chest, around your throat and neck, trying to isolate. Now, sometimes when we're standing or kneeling, it's harder to isolate here. So I'm trying to do this so that we can isolate. Otherwise, we tend to do a lot more in the low spine and the low belly, rather than learning how do I pull the front of the chest up? How do I round the upper back? Feeling the tension points. Now let's hold and breathe, puffing the upper back toward the ceiling, dropping the head. What's stretching in your neck? What's stretching in between your shoulder blades? Or are you only aware of the pressure of the strength to push the arms down? Use your breath to increase your awareness of stretch points. Good. Now drop the chest, pull the throat, pull the chin. Try not to work the low back. So adjust your low back if it tilted. Could you grow taller through the front of your throat? Feel the strength both arms need to do and work. Good. And then let's find child's pose. I'm going to widen my knees. Now this lengthens the spine. I'm going to pull the belly forward. Now this could be contraindicated based on anything that's going on your knees or hips. Pulling the chest forward and laying the head down, maybe on a block or a pillow. Letting the chest cavity sink or sag. Let your breath expand in the tummy. Feel your breath. Feel the tension points, the maximum of your stretch point in your breath around the rib cage. Feel that cylindrical feeling, not just targeting an up and down of the spine. Good. We'll bring the arms out in front of us. We're often most aware of the bigger body parts because they are bigger muscles, right? The leg muscles, the spinal muscles are bigger. So they affect larger swaths of the body. So we're carrying that tension or that lack of movement. Ask yourselves before we start to move here, what am I seeking out of wanting to move more freely? How would it help me feel mentally, emotionally? And start to invite that emotional fluid freedom. Imagine how it would feel. Start to change your mindset here. And let's breathe in as we come forward. Soften the neck. Now dip down in the hips. And exhale it back. Feeling the stretch in the armpits and shoulders and the low back. Knees wide if our tummy is getting in the way. Breathe in and pull it forward. Maybe dip in the hips. Pull the chest and the chin and the throat up. Exhale it down. Now, if as we're doing this, you're starting to feel any pain in your low back, try to tighten your belly as you come forward. Let's breathe in. Now tighten your tummy. Then let the hips sink, but tighten the tummy. Push down through the arms. Pull that chest up. Try to remember when we did that upper back, we've got to use the arms. Exhale. Lower it down. Now we're going to change a little range. See if you can walk the hands even further forward. Glue them down. Feel that new anchor point. Feel the armpits. Feel the underarms. Where are the stopping points? All the way around the shoulder socket. Now try to tighten your under armpit muscles and relax. Tighten. Feel the relationship that has with you pushing the hands down and relax. Now let's tighten. Good. Breathe as we come forward. Pull the chin and chest up, sink in the hips, tighten your tummy, shoulder blades down, breath. And bring it back. Good. Now we're going to work, that was stretching the front of the torso. I'm going to work a little bit of the back. Legs a little closer together. I'm going to bring my hands back here, finding my feet or ankles. Bringing your head to the floor. If your head doesn't come to the floor, you can put a pillow down to bring it up a little bit to give your head a spot to rest. Gently, slowly start to lift your butt. Pull your shoulder blades up toward the ceiling. Notice the stopping points in the range from the back of your head, through the back of your neck, in between your shoulders. What is your capacity for breath? Don't force anything. Back off of the tension point. Patience and commitment. And ease your way back up. Feel your eyes, feel your gaze, feel your change of perspective. Notice any emotions that came up. That's a very closed-in, confined kind of pose called rabbit or apanasana. If you started to feel any cramping in between the shoulder blades, don't do another. That could be more than enough. If you feel as though you would like to try another, we'll do one more. Holding on to the ankles or heels, maybe your pants, you could just hold the fabric. Head down. Gently, slowly lifting your hips, drawing the shoulders up. Now observe. Where's the fight? Where's the resistance? And where is the ease? Invite some balance. Don't want anything to be other than how it is. And gently bring the hips down. Lengthen the arms out. Maybe find a little bit more space. Pushing the butt back. Glue the palms down. Is there tension in the shoulder sockets or is there ease? What about your neck? Feel the skin in the belly and the chest and the arms. Let's breathe in and come forward to hands and knees. Tuck the toes under. Feel the stretch in your toes. Breath. Lift the butt. Drop the head down, down dog. Now just pedal the heels. Don't worry about anything static and observe the backs of your calves. Let your head go. Now, right here is a lot of balance between the amount of effort we have to exert or strength we have to exert to be here versus being able to focus on any stretch point in the backs of the legs or the back of the spine. So we have to find that balance. We might not have enough strength or endurance for the duration in order for us to feel a range and focus on the range in the heels, in the backs of the calves. Find a calm breath and then come down when you need to come down. All right, so could we be feeling and spending a lot of time focusing on the backs of the backs of the hamstrings, backs of the calves, and ankles? Sure. Do you have enough of that endurance to press down and forward and start to feel the lengthening in the spine without work? That may take a while. All right, let's do one more down dog. Find the length. So find the length. Remember capacity and possibility. Or do we just always go to the same spot, always come forward the same way? We're engaging in knowing that there's something new for me to feel stretching in my fingers, in my wrists, in my forearms, and sinking the butt down to give me that anchor so that I can feel that elasticity. Breath in, come forward, tuck the toes, spend the time in the awareness, tucking those toes, stretching those toes, release the tension that's going on in there. These feet have a huge range of capacity. And then lift the hips, drop the head down, pressing down and forward through the arms, press the heels back and down. Don't make it excruciating. Where on the backs of the calves are you feeling this? Are you feeling this more intensely than when we were sitting and forward folding? Probably because the ankles can get a better range. Press the heels back. Don't think about heels touching the floor. Now, if your heels are touching the floor, change it. Walk the feet back, push the butt up, press the heels back and down. Change it. Breath. Remember the difference or finding the balance for your endurance. Never pushing beyond your edge. Are you fighting or are you finding peace? Are you punishing yourself or are you practicing? And let's bring the left knee down. Step the right foot up. Now I'm going to tuck the back toe, straighten the back leg, step the left foot up a few inches, maybe 3. Both feet are aiming forward, but don't have them on a tightrope. And I'm going to straighten this right leg and let the upper body go. Now you could widen the feet a little wider if we need more room for the tummy. Now, keep the right knee a little bent. So you see I'm going to bend that a little bit. So that we don't find the greatest tension point. So here we're going to feel a little bit in the back of the calf of the left leg. Maybe your Achilles tendon in the back of that left ankle. You have an opportunity to let the head go and feel a bit of a stretch through the back of the neck and in between the shoulder blades. Can you take it? Now, if you're still feeling a ton of that right leg, bend the right leg a little bit. Let's give the length of the spine along the spinal column the best chance it can to let go and to build some awareness. We grow awareness muscles in our yoga. Now start to see about straightening the right leg, but you gotta really give yourself some respect. So it may not want to straighten. We're all gonna have a different tension point that says danger and stop. Do not sacrifice the smoothness of your breath. So you could bend a little and straighten slow. Find a breath or two here. And then you could use a bend to alleviate a little and then straighten, practicing that elasticity and plasticity. Maybe squeeze your thighs where you are and relax. And maybe you're like, I don't like the squeezing. That's too much tension point. Let's bend the right knee a little, step the left foot up, and we'll trade it out. Step the right leg back, maybe take it back a few steps. So we only want the feet to be about 3 feet apart or so. Maybe widen that right foot out a little to make a wider base for our tummies and our thighs. I'm going to bend that left knee a little and just feel the back of this right calf. I definitely actually feel the straight back leg a little on this side. I've got a little bit of stretch and ache in my low back. So I'm going to tighten my tummy muscles to give my back some support. Our bellies are the front back, right? The belly supports the back and the back supports the belly. So when my back is aching, it's saying, yo, I need some support. So I'm like, oh, that's right. Come on, core. Help out our back. Now let the spine go. Remember that left knee can stay soft. Let that upper body just hang. The bottom body is giving us the support, that anchoring, so that the upper body can hang. My low back, I'm feeling it the most as far as my tension point. So I really have to work on letting my head go. Now, sometimes if we are well endowed with breast, we might have a hindrance and feel like we can't get that head going. I believe Melissa was here saying that she wanted to come to 2XL. If she does come to 2XL, we'll talk about ways in which to kind of move some of that breast out of the way so that we can have a freer range in the neck. Now we can start to straighten the left leg. Observe, maybe not completely straighten, and bend. Where is the stopping point? And straighten. Is it in the hamstring? Is it in the top of it toward the butt? Is it down toward the back of the knee? And bend. Where does it release when you release it? And straighten. And bend. Relax your toes. Relax your neck. Acceptance. Now let's bend the left leg and step the right foot up. And slowly round the spine up. So this rolling of the spine up is a nice gradual, slow kneading of our bread dough to bring us upright, like taking a rolling pin up and down your spine. Let's do that a few times. Let's breathe in. Now when we're reaching upward here, keep the shoulder in the socket. What do I mean by that? I'm jutting it out of the socket. A lot of times when we're reaching those arms up, all we're doing is pulling those bones up by the ears, not really adding into any lengthening so much here. So now I'm going to lift through the ribs, asking my own torso to accordion upward. Breath in. Exhale, soften the knees, let the upper body come forward. So I said specifically to soften the knees so that we're not coming into the most extreme tension point in the hamstrings. Legs can be wider apart to accommodate belly and thighs. See if you can let the top of the head go. Scoop the tailbone under, knees are bent, arms dangling, round the curve, the low back, rolling the spine up. Find a few breaths to travel your way up. Good. All right, one more time. Inhale and exhale. This time I'm going to hold. And I'm going to see if I can straighten those legs. Now, you may not, all right? Don't look at my body, please, as any sort of model. I am practicing just as you are right now. And I am accepting what is true. But I'm also applying myself to releasing the top of my head down. Now, some of you, your hands are touching the floor. Great. Let them touch the floor. If they're touching with ease, maybe the hands, fingertips can face backward, pulling ever so gently to pull the top of the head toward the floor, not toward your legs. Loosen the tummy because we can't stretch with the tension. We have to soften.
Now, some of you could bring your arms behind your calves. Loosen the tummy. Where is the fight? Is there a discomfort? Is it a dangerous discomfort or unfamiliar or just uncomfortable? Is it an uncomfortable we have to respond to? Release the arms, roll the spine up, lift your head last, stretch the back of your neck intentionally. Now, we'll reach the arms. Actually, I'm going to stay sideways. I've got the palms aiming backward. Reach the arms straight back, as though you were trying to clap your hands together. And then notice what is stretching, okay? You'll probably feel something in the bicep. Maybe you'll feel a tight point or a stopping point in the chest. Sometimes if we're not really getting much, we just feel it as like this kind of puffy non-movement. Grow tall, shoulder blades down. Grow the neck upward. Chin up and down. Good. Now let the hands come together. We'll use that tension point to help us with the elasticity. Shoulders down. Chest up. Now pull the wrists up and back. Grow the back of your neck upward. Feel subtle space being stretched open in the front of the chest. Slow down. Patience and commitment. Remember when we were pulling up through the front of the throat and the neck? Let's lead through the chin, throat, and neck, and then chin down. What are we feeling? Breath. Don't make it excruciating. Don't over-tighten in the fingers, especially if you feel like your hands are going numb. What is the range in the muscles in your neck? Are you feeling the resistance in the sides, in between the shoulder blades? Where? Let's go left and right. Breath. Accept. Don't force. Neck rotation. Breath. Change direction. Good. We're going to release those arms. Feel free to shake that out. I'm going to come down. I want to hold true to my promise. I know we've gone well over, but I am going to do that supported fish that I had said for a little bit of the neck in a relaxed manner. So if you do have to go, please join us tomorrow. We'll do our regular power practice, but with flexibility in mind. So I'll be giving various cueings for different areas of the body about our physiological space of flexibility as well as our mental space of flexibility. And the last thing that I wanted to share, however, is think about your duration as you're making your plan for your practice for the rest of the week. Think about your amount of duration and look at your body movements throughout the day. How is your body being shaped and moving? And then try to find the counter to that. If you're sitting erect all the time, bend forward or back. Maybe sit and hold. Because if you're doing that for 12 hours, probably kissing to it for 2 seconds is not going to give you the balance that you're looking for, as well as twisting side to side. All right? So if you've got to go, feel free. I understand. It's Tuesdays, man. I take my time. All right. We're going to come to a sitting space. And I'm going to encourage you to either have a big pillow like one of these or a block. Some of you who come quite often know that I'm a fan. I'm a fan of these are called yoga eggs. It's oval shaped and it really contours to the spine really well. So we're going to talk about our chest opener. Okay. Now, number one, this part of the chest naturally doesn't move very much. It has a great big cage around it, okay? Because it's meant to be able to protect all of these wonderful organs that are keeping us alive and sustaining us. So let's bring a healthy dose of forgiveness for the inflexibility of bone, all right? But we have a lot of cartilage, we have a lot of ligament space in here, and some flesh that does want to move. Maybe it'll afford us to release a tension, carrying a weight, a heavy weight on our chest, whatever is lying on our chest. Remember that the body and the mind are infinitely connected. All right. So I'm going to choose this, okay? But if you want to put your pillow back here, go ahead and put your pillow back here. I'm going to turn this away so that hopefully you can see. I'm going to bring it lengthwise on my spine. I'm not bringing it down to my butt. I'm bringing it midway up. And I'm going to lay my spine onto the block. Now, if I were using the square block, it would be shaped just like this, maybe down that low. Take your time. Now, you might also need an extra pillow for your head, or maybe your head can come to the floor. Okay, this is kind of cool. I see myself upside down. If you can, let the arms fall away. Now, if that's too much stretch, either into the armpit area, shoulder, or across the chest, you could put pillows under your arms and let them rest. Want to let the free weight of the arms. So yeah, you could put a block, pillow. Now, I only feel the slightest amount of stretch here. You want to know what I really feel? Fight like a little bit of a golf ball in between my shoulder blades. So that's a contraction trying to happen, and I'm just trying to ask it. I don't need you to be tight. There's no need for a fight. Now my head is down and I'm letting the neck lengthen. Some of you are in way of a comfort zone, so you might want to put more cushioning so that you could lift the spine even higher. So I'm going to take that out of the way because I was kind of chilling. Bringing a little bit higher so I can feel the weight of the head. And I'm getting a little bit of the benefit of the lengthening of my neck. Tuck the chin a little bit and then let the head rest. Now, you could have your feet together, knees open. You might need cushioning under the legs so that they're not finding the most max of the stretch. And remember what I said when we were sitting upright, and I said you might not be getting much, especially if the sides of the legs are touching, and mine almost are. Your hips could be raised here as well to allow for a little extra. When you feel the tight points in this kind of a yin posture, okay? So this is a non-active, receptive posture. We don't have to be standing and applying ourselves in any way. In these yin spaces, can we find the calm in the mind of acceptance? Of it's going to take the time that it takes, not how much time is this going to take? That shift in mindset. It's going to take how long it takes. And there is no there. Only here. There's nowhere to get to. There's nothing to achieve other than peace. With the acceptance comes a release, a surrender into who we are. Now, maybe your muscles have more to surrender, and maybe they don't. For now, today, what is the truth that we can accept in this moment What's the peace and the gratitude we're gaining in this acceptance? And that's this mental space of looking at things in a balanced way, accepting things for what they are, and finding appreciation for the abundance that is right here, rather than focusing on the deficiency. I'm going to slowly bring the inner thighs together, allowing that elasticity to come back in a soft way, not trying to let it snap. I'm going to gently roll over to one side and then bring myself upright. And I'll come to a seated space. Okay, so physically, we worked a little bit of the front of the chest, torso area, a little bit of the pectoralis, rectus abdominis as far as what we stretched, the back of the torso along the spinal erectors or erector spinae. Those are the two muscles going down your spinal column. We talked a little bit about the containment of the serratus, the oblique, and the rectus abdominis to hold this torso together, to give it anchoring to lift, not just working from the shoulder socket. We worked the backs of the legs, a little bit of the hamstring, a little bit of the calves in a seated space as well as a standing space. We did a pyramid, we did Uttanasana, that's standing forward fold, and then we did our Paschimottanasana, the seated with the legs straight out in front of us, as well as the Janu Sirsasana with one leg bent. And then we did a little bit of heart opening standing, practicing working the muscles themselves to find this range, building that awareness of what's moving, what's not moving. Is it flesh? Is it bone? Do I need more time? That patience, that commitment. In that, we worked a bit of the neck, side to side. We worked up and down. Hopefully, we were feeling some spaces in there as far as that resistance. Hopefully, also confronting, oh, what's going on in my mind? We also did the down dog. We worked that calf and the heel area, working a little bit of endurance of our strength, confronting what's the truth of the amount of strength for the duration that I can actually do in this posture. And then we did our supported fish, being able to sit in a relaxed space, opening that chest, letting things be as they are. Okay. I'm deeply honored to be able to share a really deep concept about what is flexibility. And maybe this gives us a lot to chew on, to think about, where we kind of rigid in our thinking about flexibility. Yes, there are some physiological things that we could just sit and focus on, talking about the hormonal or adrenal impacts, talking about spasticity based on a neurological or autoimmune effect, or even some of the limitations due to fascia around the muscle fiber. But eventually, when we are yoking and doing our yoga practice, we do have to look at how the mind is engaging with the body and how the body is engaging with the mind. Do they know what each are doing and how they are contributing to what we perceive as flexibility? All right, let's make a plan for this week. Hopefully you're going to join us tomorrow for our power practice. Please check out some of our prior pieces, especially we'll want to start with week 1 if you're new to creating a yoga practice plan. Setting our plan, setting the amount of time, observing and journaling, as well as what is our guide, who is our guide, whether there's a text, whether there's a teacher. It's truly my honor to be able to share yoking, the practice of yoga, with you. I hope that it helps serve you throughout your day, in your actions and your speech and your mind. All the light and love in me recognizes and salutes the light and love in you. Namaste. So feel free if you want to join us tonight for our Yin Yoga 2XL. Yin is a more relaxed state. We sit, we hold, sometimes 2, 3, 4 minutes per pose or per side. All right. If you're interested in that, This is in our Curvy Yoga group, so please join. I put it onto the Facebook wall, so join that group, and in there you'll find the Zoom. We keep it as a Zoom on an invite only so that it's a safe space, okay? We've got people of all shapes and sizes in there, and we want all of us to have a positive body experience and a positive spirit experience. We've been donation-based for 10 years here, serving the greater Lansing area. If you've got it in your heart or your pocket, please feel free to make a donation to paypal.me/justbeyoga. See you all tomorrow. Namaste. Thanks for coming. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Hey, Elizabeth, if there's anything that you have questions about, in particular when it's coming to perimenopause, please feel free to send me a message, and I'm happy to, we can chitty chat back and forth and give you some specific targeting things. Same with you, Melissa, if you're still with us, if there's anything in particular that you want to work on. Oh, hi, Kim. Nice to know that you were here. Good, I'm glad. Yes, elasticity, plasticity. We've got lots of fun stuff in looking at what is flexibility. So nice to see you this morning. All right, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.